The wind bit into him like 1,000 invisible needles, but Elias barely noticed. His breath puffed out in short, jagged clouds, the kind that reminded him of childhood winters he never wanted to return to. Yet here he was, trudging through snow that reached his knees, clutching a bottle of old Terran rum like it was a beating heart. The only thing left. The only warmth he had. And then, he saw them. 2 silhouettes, kneeling in the snow beneath a pale sky bruised with violet and grey. At first he thought they were statues, too still, too perfect. Then one moved, just slightly, brushing a hand across the top of a small, frost-covered table that hadn't been there a second before. Her eyes opened, glowing with a soft gold, and locked onto his. The air felt warmer suddenly. Or maybe it was just his chest. He blinked once. Twice. They weren't human. Their skin shimmered with a lavender undertone, and their eyes were like twin stars refracting impossible colors. The 2 women were nearly identical, from the curves of their cheeks to the way they rested their hands in perfect symmetry. Off-worlders. Maybe Miralins, though he'd only ever heard stories. Soft-voiced healers. Empaths. Dangerous in their own way. Still, he kept walking, because when you're about to freeze to death, you'll sit with the devil if he's holding a fire. The nearest one, he would later learn her name was Lysera, tilted her head ever so slightly. "You carry something precious," she said, her voice more sensation than sound, like a warm thought grazing the back of your neck. Elias stopped in front of them and held up the bottle. The amber liquid inside trembled with each gust of wind. Aged 16 years. Terran spice rum. Only one like it on this frozen rock. The other woman, Virel, reached forward but stopped inches away, as if permission had weight. "We'll take it," she said softly, "if you give us more than the bottle." He frowned. "What more could you want? I need shelter, passage, hell, just a fire. This'll trade high anywhere." Lysera's lips curled into a knowing smile. "We don't need the drink. We want the story inside it." Elias hesitated, suddenly aware of how still everything had become. The wind had died. The snow had stopped falling. The world held its breath. "We're not asking for your bottle," Virel added, voice low. "We're asking you to share it. Just one night. One story. With us." He looked down at the bottle. So many nights of misery, of surviving wreckage, clinging to this like it meant something. He could have traded it days ago for food, warmth, anything. But he didn't. Because it was the last thing that reminded him of who he used to be. He Saturday. Across from them. The table between them might have been ice, but it didn't melt under their skin. Neither did the snow around them. Their presence was different. As if the planet accepted them in ways it never would him. With trembling fingers, he popped the cork. A plume of warm, spiced vapor spilled into the air and hovered between them like mist with memory. He poured 3 glasses, clear crystal he hadn't seen appear. When he looked up, the sisters were watching him with something deeper than curiosity. Hunger, maybe. Or loneliness. To surviving the cold, Elias offered, raising his glass. Lysera and Virel raised theirs in unison. To melting what should never have frozen, they replied. Their fingers brushed as they drank. Not by accident. The rum burned down his throat like a hearth igniting in his chest. And then something strange happened. The world around him began to glow not just with light, but with feeling. Every taste, every sound, every tiny flake of snow had meaning. Emotions layered over sensations, layered over memory. Virel closed her eyes and reached for his wrist, gently turning his arm over. "You've lost someone," she said quietly. Lysera touched the side of his face. "You've never been touched like this before." He didn't ask how they knew. He could feel it, too. Their sadness. Their hope. Their desperate, aching need for a connection not just physical, but real. "This is how your kind loves," Lysera whispered, lips inches from his. "Through stories. Through pain. Through sacrifice. And bottles," Virel added with a playful smile that softened as she leaned in. "And sometimes, through fire." They didn't kiss him. Not yet. It wasn't that kind of moment. This was something else. Something deeper. Their foreheads touched his. Their breaths mingled. He felt the universe tilt slightly, like the axis of his world had realigned. "You're not alone anymore," they said together. For the first time in years, Elias believed it. They drank again. More slowly. Sharing stories, not with words, but with the gentle unlocking of memories. Each sip peeled away another layer. The night sky above shimmered with dancing auroras, like the planet itself was eavesdropping. Time twisted. The bottle, once nearly full, now sat half empty between them. Elias didn't remember pouring again. Didn't care. Warmth had seeped into his bones, not from the drink, but from them. And then the table cracked. A sigil, glowing violet and pulsing, appeared beneath the ice. Neither woman moved. Their hands stayed on his. Their eyes never left his. "What is that?" Elias asked, heart thundering. "The price," Lysera said. "The promise," Virel echoed. "You shared your last warmth with us," they said as one. "Now we share ours with you." A low hum rose from the ground, distant but building. Somewhere beyond the valley, metal stirred. Something mechanical. Watching. He looked between them, the rum bottle in his hand once more. They waited, not pressuring, but patient. Expectant. His fingers curled around the neck of the bottle. Snowflakes landed on his lashes as he lifted it slowly, slowly, to his lips. The sigil pulsed brighter. He drank. And everything began to change. The first swallow was warm. The second was alive. As Elias lowered the bottle, the snow beneath him trembled, not violently, but like a heartbeat waking beneath the ice. The sigil pulsed in harmony with his own chest, and suddenly he wasn't sure if he was breathing air anymore, or something more intimate. The women didn't speak, but he could feel their words vibrating against his skin. The night deepened. Around them, the wind rose and fell, yet none of it touched their circle. The cold that had been gnawing at his bones for days was gone, replaced by something golden and deep. The taste of the rum lingered like memory, and something inside him unfurled like the part of his soul that had long stopped believing in connection suddenly remembered how to ache again. Lysera moved first, reaching forward to touch the base of the sigil. The table cracked open down the middle with a whisper, revealing a small, crystalline sphere that shimmered in hues Elias couldn't name. He leaned forward, but Virel's hand on his shoulder stopped him. "Don't touch it yet," she said, gently. "What is it?" he whispered. "Our bond, right," Lysera said. "You drank with us, shared warmth." It responded. "Bond, right?" Elias narrowed his eyes. "You mean this was planned?" "No," Virel said. "The bottle was the key. But the decision is yours." He should have been cautious. He should have backed away, questioned what he was getting into. But instead, he stayed. Maybe because of the rum. Maybe because he hadn't felt this close to anyone in years. Maybe because he didn't want the moment to end. "What happens if I touch it?" he asked. "You become part of something you've never known," Lysera said, voice low. "You carry our bond. And we carry yours." Elias looked between them. Twin stars. Beautiful. Alien. Familiar in ways they shouldn't be. His hand hovered over the crystal, and just as his fingers grazed the surface, a wave of heat surged through him. Memories. Not his. A city of light suspended in clouds. A sea that shimmered like starlight. A childhood under violet suns. Joy. Pain. Sorrow. Laughter. He gasped. Then came their emotions, raw and unfiltered. A longing so deep it threatened to collapse him. Loneliness not just of years, but generations. They had been waiting. Not for anyone. For him. He didn't understand it. He just knew it to be true. He fell forward into their arms. Their embrace was nothing like he expected. It wasn't lustful. It wasn't even fully physical. It was emotional, spiritual, like three notes forming a chord that hadn't been heard in centuries. For minutes, or maybe hours, he didn't exist apart from them. Their warmth surrounded him, their breath mixed with his, and the pulse of the sigil became the rhythm of their shared heartbeat. When the haze faded, he was lying back in the snow, head in Virel's lap, Lysera tracing silent patterns along his palm. Above them, stars glittered like tiny eyes watching something sacred. "I saw your world," Elias whispered. "I saw it fall. Lysera nodded, sadness rippling across her features. The guild stripped our skies of color. We fled. Our people scattered. You're refugees, he said. We're seeds, Virel corrected. Waiting for a world to grow in. And this, bond right? He asked. It awakens what you already carry, she said. Empathy. Connection. Humanity. He sat up slowly, muscles aching in that strange, pleasant way that followed intense emotion. Why me? Lysera smiled softly. Because you offered warmth without asking anything in return. Because you were alone, like us, Virel added. He looked down at the now empty bottle beside the sigil. So what happens now? The sisters glanced at each other, then back at him. We give you a gift, Lysera said. And a choice, Virel added. They reached into the folds of their cloaks he hadn't even realized they wore any before and pulled out a small, hexagonal crystal. Unlike the first, this one pulsed gently, like it was sleeping. This, Lysera said, is a vision seed. It holds the map to an ancient tower buried beneath the northern ice shelf, Virel said. From there, we can signal the others. Begin again. Begin what? Elias asked. Everything, they said together. He took the seed gently. It was warm in his hands, impossibly light. Yet it felt like holding destiny. Then came the sound. A low thrum in the distance, mechanical and cruel. Guild drones. Lysera's eyes sharpened. They're coming. Virel helped Elias to his feet. They must have tracked the energy spike from the bond. He cursed under his breath. We need to move. We can't outrun them in open snow, Lysera said. Then we don't, Elias replied. We hide. Somewhere they won't scan. He looked toward the outcropping of jagged ice to the west. Their thin crevice shadows. Possible shelter. They ran. Snow kicked behind them in bursts. The crystal pulsed in his hand like a heartbeat trying to guide him. Behind them, the drone sounds grew louder, closer, angrier. They reached the ice outcrop just as a drone burst over the horizon, scanning with a red beam. They dove behind the ridge, bodies pressed together. The warmth between them was the only thing real. The drone passed. They waited in silence. Then Lysera whispered, they'll be back. With more. Elias clenched the vision seed. Then tomorrow, we run. Tonight, we plan. You're staying? Virel asked. He looked at them both. You offered me a priceless gift. I'm not letting anyone take it. The twins leaned against him, one on each side. He wrapped his arms around them as snow drifted down like falling stars. None of them spoke. The seed pulsed. And somewhere beneath the northern ice shelf, something ancient stirred. The snow had become glass. Not from cold, but from pressure. Elias could feel it in his boots, the crunch no longer soft, but brittle and sharp, like stepping across frozen history. Morning had barely touched the edge of the horizon when they moved again. The three of them, wrapped in silence and urgency, following the signal pulsing gently from the vision seed clutched in Elias's palm. He kept it hidden inside his jacket, near his heart. The warmth it radiated seemed stronger now, like it recognized the path ahead. We're close, Virel whispered. How close? Elias asked, breath visible in thick clouds. The ice will part when it hears the right voice, Lysera said, walking just ahead. And we are three. That phrase again, we are three. It echoed strangely inside him now. It wasn't about number. It was about bond. They crested a ridge, and there it was. The glacier stretched out before them like a sleeping titan, smooth and endless, but at its center, a circular depression shimmered faintly with violet light. Unnatural. Alive. Elias slowed. That's it. Yes, Virel said. The signal tower lies beneath. As they approached, the air thickened not with cold, but with anticipation. The depression was rimmed by strange carvings, ancient and flowing like frozen music. Elias reached out to touch one, but Lysera gently stopped his hand. Together, she said. They each placed a palm on the center symbol. The world sighed. The ice rumbled, then began to shift, spiraling open like a breath drawn after centuries of silence. Beneath it, a circular staircase glowed, descending into pale violet shadows. But before they could take a step, the sound returned. The hum. Then the shriek of guild engines. Too late. A black crawler dropped from the sky, slamming into the snow just meters away, spraying frost and vapor. From its side, 2 scout drones emerged, weapons charged. Behind them, a figure stepped out, broad-shouldered, armored in black and crimson. Commander Tariq. Elias recognized him instantly. Not personally. But he didn't need to. Every miner, smuggler, and stray pilot had heard of Tariq. The man who collected people like others collected minerals. Efficient. Ruthless. Empty. Tariq raised a hand. Back away from the gate. No introduction. No preamble. Elias moved instinctively, stepping in front of the sisters. They're under my protection. Tariq's head tilted slightly. You're Terran. This doesn't concern you. It does now, Elias replied. They're bonded to me. Even more reason to separate you, Tariq said coldly. You've contaminated a potential specimen set. He raised his hand. The drones fired. Everything exploded into motion. Elias grabbed the twins and dove behind the rim of the depression as blaster bolts scorched the snow. Virel clutched the vision seed, shielding it with her body. Lysera returned fire not with a weapon, but with a wave of empathic force that staggered the drones momentarily. They're adapting, she gasped. I can't hold them long. Elias scanned the terrain, then spotted the half-buried husk of an old snow hauler nearby. There, he shouted. Cover me. He sprinted through the chaos, sliding into the vehicle and ripping open the control panel. Fried. Mostly junk. But the power core was intact. He grinned. Guild tech was superior, sure, but Terran engineers had one gift, desperation-born creativity. He yanked out the fusion coil, attached the charge line from his belt, and bolted back. Get ready to run, he yelled. Lysera nodded, eyes gleaming. Now. She dropped the empathic field. Elias slammed the coil into the ice just beside the depression's rim. The explosion wasn't massive. But it was loud. Loud enough to blind sensors. Loud enough to shake the drones just long enough for the 3 of them to dive down the staircase. The tunnel sealed behind them with a hiss. Darkness. Then the walls lit up, soft pulses responding to their breath, their heartbeats, their presence. They descended in silence. At the bottom lay a chamber. Domed. Lined with symbols like stars, the ceiling glimmering with constellations that didn't belong to this galaxy. At its center stood a pedestal. Elias approached slowly. The seed in Virel's hand vibrated, then floated upward, gently settling into the hollow at the pedestal's core. The chamber reacted instantly. Walls shifted, light patterns spiraled upward. A low hum filled the space, not mechanical, but musical. A message forming. A frequency being born. Lysera placed a hand on Elias's back. The tower is ancient Myralin tech. It amplifies empathy, spreads it across systems. But only through bonded triads. Why triads? He asked. 2 isn't enough, Virel whispered. Too fragile. Too closed. But 3 is balance. Strength. Continuity. He understood. Somehow, he'd known it all along. Then the door at the top of the stairs exploded inward. Tariq descended slowly, rifle in hand. His armor gleamed like bone under black water. I'll give you one chance, he said. Hand over the seed and the Myralins. You can keep your bottle. Elias stepped in front of the pedestal. I gave that bottle to them freely, he said. And what they gave me can't be bought. Tariq raised his weapon. Virel didn't flinch. Lysera didn't breathe. And Elias reached into his coat and held up the shard of the bottle, the one he'd saved, just in case. 1 sip's worth. It's not a weapon, he said. It's a memory. Then he threw it, glass and rum, straight into the pedestal. The impact wasn't explosive. It was alive. The scent of Terran spice burst outward. The pedestal drank it in. And the tower sang. A pulse erupted from the crystal, a wave of soundless energy washing over Tariq like a storm of feeling. It wasn't heat. It wasn't pain. It was emotion. Tariq dropped to his knees. His weapon clattered. He was crying. Behind him, the drones powered down. And for the first time in decades, silence returned not from death, but from peace. Elias turned slowly. The tower's light rose, reaching the glacier ceiling above. And far above them, stars began to shift. The signal had been sent. The tower sang long after the battle ended. Its frequency, once dormant for millennia, now pulsed through the glacier like the heartbeat of a newborn star. The light climbed upward in spiral beams, brushing the sky with threads of color the planet had forgotten how to show. Above, the storm parted gently, reverently, revealing a dome of stars that shimmered like they were watching something sacred unfold. Elias stood between the sisters, breathing hard, his hand still trembling from the release. Not from fear. From awe. From the unbearable, overwhelming feeling of being alive. Tariq sat against the chamber wall, silent, stunned. The weapon he'd carried like a limb was gone, tossed aside like it no longer made sense. He stared ahead with hollow eyes, his breath shallow, as if he just realized how much damage he'd done in 1,000 lifetimes and couldn't find the words to forgive himself. He won't follow us anymore, Lysera said softly. He can't, Virel added. The tower gave him what he never knew he needed. And now he's too full to fight. Elias watched as the last pulse from the pedestal slowed, fading into a slow, steady glow. The crystal hovered for a moment, then gently fell into his open hand. It was lighter now. Changed. What did we just do? He whispered. You amplified a signal that hasn't been heard since the last bond rite was completed, Lysera said, stepping closer. You reminded the stars what it feels like to feel, Virel finished. The meaning landed slowly. Somewhere, far above them on stations, colonies, vessels drifting in cold silence, people were receiving the signal. Not a message with words or coordinates. Not an alert. Something deeper. A frequency that slipped past logic and spoke to the parts of them long silenced by war, greed, and fear. It wasn't instructions. It was empathy. And it was spreading. They exited the tower together. The glacier had shifted. The snow no longer hissed in anger, it sparkled. The air was clearer. Brighter. Even the wind seemed to carry something gentler now, a hush of memory instead of threat. Their stolen crawler waited, intact and still humming. They loaded quickly, not speaking. There was no need. The silence was a shared thing now. Comfortable. Whole. Elias took the pilot's seat, the crystal tucked carefully beside the console. Lysera sat beside him. Virel leaned her head on his shoulder from behind. The crawler lifted off the ice, treads folding inward as it hovered. Where to? Elias asked, though he already knew. The relay spires near the equator, Virel murmured. If we reach them, we can amplify the signal even further. Across systems. Across empires. And then, he asked. Lysera reached for his hand, weaving her fingers between his. Then we do what Miralins were always meant to do. We heal. The crawler banked west, engines low and smooth. They flew low over the glacier, following the veins of energy now visible in the ice below, pale blue streaks running outward from the tower like roots. Elias watched the world pass beneath them. He still didn't understand it all. Probably never would. But he didn't need to. He had given up a bottle to stay alive. What he had gained was more than warmth. It was more than love. It was a place in something greater. A bond that defied language and gravity and time. It was priceless. They camped that night on the edge of a broken cliff overlooking a sea of ice that shimmered under twin moons. The crawler formed a dome of heat around them, but they barely noticed. They lay close, their bodies twined in silence and breath. Lysera's voice came in a whisper against his chest. Do you regret it? Elias turned his head. Regret what? Giving away your last comfort. Your last memory of home. He shook his head. No. Because this is home now. Virel smiled in the dark. You've changed. I don't think I ever was the man I thought I was, he said. I was just waiting for someone to show me who I could be. They didn't speak after that. They didn't need to. In the morning, as they prepared to depart, a shimmer caught Elias's eye in the snow. Something small, half-buried. He crouched, brushed away the frost. The bottle shard. The one he'd thrown. It had landed just outside the chamber, whole, but empty. He lifted it gently. In the sunlight, it refracted the ice, casting a soft rainbow over the snow. He didn't pocket it. Didn't keep it. He planted it upright in the snow. A marker. A reminder. That sometimes, the most priceless things begin with what we're willing to let go of. The crawler rose once more, carving a slow arc through the sky. Behind them, the shard glistened alone in the snow until, slowly, light began to bloom around it. Not artificial. Not mechanical. But alive. Hope had taken root. And it would spread. Far across the stars. One pulse at a time.